In this lecture, you're going to learn about a couple of different techniques of selecting breakpoints. Now, first of all, what actually are breakpoints? Well, breakpoints are the viewport width at which we want our design to change. Or in other words, breakpoints are the pixel values that we want to put in our media queries. Now, about actually selecting these breakpoints, back in the day, we would simply use the screen width of popular Apple devices like the iPhone and iPad as breakpoints and simply call it a day. And while this is certainly the easiest way of doing it, we actually no longer do this. And that's for two important reasons. First, when we optimize for one very specific device, we ignore all the other users of the other devices. And so we create a worse experience for them, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And second, and even more important maybe, is that this strategy is an absolute nightmare for maintaining your code and keeping it up to date in the future. Because if tomorrow Apple releases a new phone with new dimensions, do you really want to go back and change all your media queries in all the projects that you have ever built? Well, I don't think so, right? And so that's why we call this the bad strategy, and therefore we need another one. So the next strategy is what I call the good strategy, and this one is based on screen width ranges. So basically what we do here is to look at the most used width for different categories of devices, like phones or tablets or desktop computers, and then we try to group them together in some logical way to then pick our breakpoints from that. And so this is already a lot better than the first strategy because we're using a lot of different devices here. And even more importantly, we're not setting breakpoints at one specific device, but between similar device sizes. And so you can see that nicely by these red bars here. So we can assume that most phones are somewhere between 300 and 500 pixels, and that most tablets are between 600 and 900 pixels. And so therefore, we can place a breakpoint somewhere at 600 pixels. And the same works for other categories. So for example, most landscape tablets are between 900 and 1100 pixels, and desktops are usually above 1200 pixels. And so we can put a media query, for example, at 1200 pixels. So that is our breakpoint here. All right. So again, this is already a much better strategy than the first one, but we can make it even better by combining this with the perfect strategy. And the perfect strategy is basically all about setting breakpoints at places where the design breaks down. So in this strategy, we can try to completely ignore devices and device categories altogether and only look at our content and our design. And ideally, it works like this. So we begin at one screen size, either desktop or mobile size, and then we start decreasing our screen width or increasing it for mobile first. Then, as soon as the design breaks, which means that the design no longer looks acceptable, we create a new breakpoint. And that's it. So, again, what we do in this perfect strategy is to just put the breakpoints wherever the design starts to look weird and like out of place, and try to not think about devices at all. Now, it's actually quite hard to do this one completely without thinking about devices. So without classifying breakpoints as a phone or as a tablet or something like that. So therefore, basically, we're going to use this perfect strategy together with the good strategy. So the one where we select breakpoints based on device width ranges as well. So let's start doing that in the next lecture.